Hello and welcome to Newsweek South Asia, your one-stop destination for in-depth analysis of security challenges, regional conflicts, and the evolving threat of terrorism. Let's take a look at the headlines first. India slams Pakistan at UNHRC over Jammu and Kashmir claims living in a la-la land. Pakistan-Afghanistan border erupts after deadly airstrikes in Nangarhar. And 3 Pakistan-linked Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists killed in Kishtwar operation. The Pakistan-Afghanistan border is once again on the brink after fresh clashes erupted in eastern Nangarhar province, days after Pakistani airstrikes killed dozens inside Afghan territory. While Islamabad claims it targeted terrorist hideouts, Kabul says civilians, including women and children, paid the price. The escalation raises serious questions about Pakistan's security doctrine and its growing regional isolation.
Fresh fighting broke out recently between Afghanistan and Pakistani forces in eastern Nangarhar, with both sides reportedly using heavy artillery. Casualties have already been confirmed. The clashes come just days after Pakistan carried out late-night airstrikes inside Afghan territory, and Operation Kabul says struck residential compounds rather than militant camps. Entire structures in Gardi Khas village were reduced to rubble, with families trapped beneath debris. Rescue efforts are still underway as villagers dig through collapsed homes in search of survivors.
د ننګرهار ولایت بیسود ولسوالۍ اړوند ګردي کس سیمه کې د شپې 12 بجې د پنجابي دښمن جټ تیارو بمباران کړی دی او په نتیجه کې زموږ عام ولس زنانه ماشومان سپینګیري په ډېره بېرحمۍ سره د شپې په ناوخته په دې روژه کې شهیدان کړي دي او دې سره یو لوی جنایت تر سره شوی دی.
دا د شپې 12 بجې چې کله تیاره رااله وګرځېدله موږ ویلې که زلزله د غون خلک کورونه کوټونه بار راووته د هغې نه وروسته بمبار یې وکړو. بیا چې موږ دې کور ته رالو دې کور کې یو کس ژوندی پاتې و، نور 2-3 کسان یې نور هم ایستلي وو خپل، باقي چې 17 کسان غون شهیدان شوي.
Taliban officials have condemned the strikes as a blatant violation of Afghan sovereignty. We have consistently sought to resolve issues through dialogue, but unfortunately similar incidents continue to occur. The Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan will not remain silent in response to such actions and will address them at an appropriate time and in a measured manner. Islamabad insists the operation was intelligence-based selective targeting of 7 terrorist hideouts belonging to the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and the Islamic State Khorasan province. Pakistani authorities claim the strikes were retaliation for recent suicide attacks, including the bombing of a mosque in Islamabad and an assault in Bannu that killed security personnel. However, critics argue that Pakistan's repeated reliance on cross-border force reflects a deeper failure, its long-standing policy of cultivating and tolerating terrorist networks that have now turned against it.
Pakistan and Afghanistan have been having a running, feud over their borders for quite some time. Of course, historically always, right? And surprisingly for Pakistan, when Taliban came to power, it assumed that Taliban would very much look up to Pakistan for guidance in terms of foreign affairs and strategic security relations. Taliban clearly did not want that. And there are differences. One. Secondly, yes, Pakistan is facing, radicalism, of course, and terrorism inside its own territory, especially on the Afghan border, Afghan-Pakistan border.
For years, Islamabad has accused Kabul of harboring terrorists, but the Taliban administration has consistently denied allowing Afghan soil to be used for attacks inside Pakistan. The latest strikes come despite recent diplomatic gestures, including the Saudi-mediated release of 3 Pakistani soldiers by Kabul. Instead of de-escalation, the region has witnessed renewed artillery exchanges and rising civilian casualties. Kabul has vowed a major but firm response, warning it will not remain silent in the face of what it calls aggression. Security analysts note that since the Taliban's return to power in 2021, Pakistan's western border has become increasingly unstable. Militant ambushes, suicide bombings and cross-border shelling have intensified, exposing Islamabad's internal security vulnerabilities. Funerals for police officers killed in recent militant attacks in northwest Pakistan further underscore the deteriorating security environment. The porous frontier, long shaped by Islamabad's strategic depth doctrine, now appears to be a blowback zone where militant groups once seen as assets have evolved into liabilities.
India delivered a firm and uncompromising rebuttal to Pakistan at the 61st session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. Exercising its right of reply, New Delhi rejected what it described as politically motivated allegations on Jammu and Kashmir, highlighted democratic participation and infrastructure growth in the Union territory, and called out Islamabad's continued attempts to internationalize the issue. Your report.
An exchange unfolded at the 61st session of the United Nations Human Rights Council after Pakistan raised Jammu and Kashmir during the high-level segment. India responded decisively, dismissing the remarks as propaganda driven by political compulsions rather than facts. New Delhi also criticized the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, accusing it of allowing itself to be influenced by Islamabad's narrative.
India is compelled to exercise its right of reply in response to references made to it during the high-level segment by Pakistan and the OIC. We categorically reject these allegations. The OIC, by parroting Pakistan's propaganda, only reveals how deeply it has allowed itself to be co-opted by one member, reducing itself to an echo chamber for one country's political compulsions. Pakistan's incessant propaganda now reeks of envy. We have no desire to dignify such propaganda, however, we'll make a few points to dismantle it with facts. Jammu and Kashmir was, is, and will always remain an integral and inalienable part of India.
India reiterated that Jammu and Kashmir's accession in 1947 was lawful, final, and consistent with international law under the framework of the Indian Independence Act. New Delhi maintained that the region was, is, and will always remain an integral part of India. Turning the spotlight on Islamabad, India asserted that the only unresolved matter pertains to territories under Pakistan's illegal occupation, urging it to vacate areas it controls forcibly.
No amount of wishful rhetoric or audacious propaganda by Pakistan can alter the immutable fact that the accession of Jammu and Kashmir to India was completely legal and irrevocable, and in accordance with Indian Independence Act of 1947 and the international law. In fact, the only outstanding dispute regarding this region is the illegal occupation of Indian territories by Pakistan. We call upon Pakistan to vacate these areas which remain under its forcible occupation.
India also underscored developments on the ground. Record voter turnout in recent electoral exercises in Jammu and Kashmir, New Delhi said, reflects the people's rejection of terrorism and violence and their commitment to democratic processes. Massive investments in infrastructure, connectivity, healthcare, and rural development have significantly expanded the Union Territory's fiscal outlay. In stark contrast, Pakistan continues to grapple with political instability and economic fragility, relying on repeated financial lifelines from the International Monetary Fund to stabilize its economy.
If the Chenab Rail Bridge, the world's highest bridge inaugurated in Jammu and Kashmir last year, is fake, then Pakistan must be hallucinating or living in the La-La land. Or maybe Pakistan finds it unbelievable that the developmental budget of Jammu and Kashmir is more than double the recent bailout package they sought from the IMF. Mr. President, to conclude, despite Pakistan's efforts to destabilize the region through relentless state-sponsored terrorism, Jammu and Kashmir continues to surge ahead, politically, economically, and socially.
The reference was to the Chenab Rail Bridge, the world's highest railway bridge, symbolizing deeper integration and long-term strategic investment in the region. India's response at Geneva signaled a confident diplomatic posture. Development over disruption, democracy over destabilization, and facts over propaganda. At the Human Rights Council, New Delhi made it clear, attempts to malign India on global platforms will be met with firm rebuttals and hard evidence from the ground.
In a major counter-terror success in Jammu and Kashmir, Indian security forces have neutralized 3 Pakistan-linked Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists in Kishtwar's Chatru belt. Among those killed is reportedly Saifullah, a dreaded commander accused of orchestrating deadly attacks on Indian forces. The operation once again spotlights Pakistan-sponsored infiltration and India's sustained counter-terror grid in the Union territory.
The joint operation, codenamed Operation Trashi First, was launched in the dense forests in Kishtwar district of Jammu and Kashmir. Acting on specific intelligence inputs from Jammu and Kashmir Police, the Intelligence Bureau and Army sources, troops of the Counter-Intelligence Force under the White Knight Corps moved into cordon of a suspected hideout. The terrorists affiliated with the Pakistan-based outfit Jaish-e-Mohammed opened heavy fire from inside a mud house as search teams closed in, triggering a fierce gun battle. During the exchange, the mud structure caught fire, reducing it to rubble. The charred bodies of 3 terrorists were later recovered, along with 2 AK-47 rifles and ammunition.
Collectively, jointly, with all the elements which we had on our disposal, that is the army, the special forces, police, the SOG, the CRPF, and everybody. And collectively, you would have seen that the way we operated in a very, very calm, composed, collective, collaborative manner, that the kind of success we achieved, especially, without suffering any casualty, any harm to any of our troops, except for the brave dog Tyson, who actually initiated the operation, and that is how collectively we could conclude that operation.
Preliminary identification suggests one of the slain terrorists was Safiullah, a notorious JEM commander who had infiltrated into Jammu nearly 5 years ago. He was involved in multiple attacks, including a July 2024 assault that killed 4 Indian soldiers. Officials say he had evaded capture in at least 20 previous attempts. With this operation, 7 JEM terrorists have been eliminated in Jammu region this year alone, underscoring a sustained push to dismantle Pakistan-backed terror modules operating south of the Pir Pranjal range.
This Operation Trashi 1 is still going on, and it will continue because security forces want the whole area to be sanitized of the militant. They do not want any more incidents of violence. There have been 4 incidents in January. Saifullah has been active for many years, almost 3 to 4 years. He is a dreaded terrorist and was involved in number of attacks, and that's why it was very important. This success definitely means a great achievement and definitely will be a big relief for the local people of Kashmir.
The Chatru forest belt, marked by steep heights, caves and dense foliage, has increasingly been used as a transit and hideout corridor by infiltrating terrorists. Intelligence agencies believe such operatives are often guided by handlers across the line of control, with logistical support routed through overground workers. India has consistently accused Pakistan of aiding infiltration attempts in Jammu and Kashmir, a charge Islamabad denies. However, recoveries of Pakistani origin weapons, communication links and cross-border contact numbers continue to reinforce New Delhi's claims of state-backed proxy warfare.
ये जो टेररिस्ट थे, ये काफी दिनों से, और मैं कहूंगा ये पुराने एक बड़े मंजे हुए टेररिस्ट थे, जो कश्मीर घाटी से पनाह लेके यहाँ पे जो है पहाड़ों में छुपे हुए थे। और अब ये जो तीनों को जब इन्होंने एलिमिनेट कर दी है, ये मैं कहूँगा सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस के लिए बहुत ही एक कामयाबी है। एक मनोबल जो है वो काफी बढ़ेगा और लोगों का भी एक जो सुकून है वो लोगों को मिलेगा कि ये जो टेररिस्ट हैं ये मारे गए।
The operation also comes as India unveils its first national counter-terror doctrine, Prahar, formalizing a proactive, intelligence-led strategy against terrorism. The policy directly addresses threats from hostile neighbors using terror proxies as well as modern challenges like encrypted communications and criminal terror networks. Built on 7 pillars: prevention, swift response, coordinated government action, rule of law, counter-radicalization, global alignment and recovery, the doctrine aims to criminalize terror comprehensively and choke off funding, weapons, safe havens and cyber support. Officials say operations like this are now a part of a structured national strategy to dismantle Pakistan-sponsored terror at its roots.
In Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan, the government's stalled claims of progress stand shattered as residents fight for something as basic as water. Entire neighborhoods are reeling under severe shortages while taps run dry for days. Power cuts, mismanagement, and broken promises have turned daily survival into a struggle for thousands. We have a report.
Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan is grappling with a worsening water crisis in Gilgit city, laying bare the government's failure to ensure even the most basic necessity. For days, taps have remained dry as power shortages paralyze pumping systems. Families are forced to search for water while women lead protests on the streets. Grand claims of development mean little when authorities cannot ensure a steady supply of water to their own people.
फरवरी मार्च के महीने में गिलगित शहर के अंदर पानी की तंगी होती है। उसकी बुनियादी वजह ये होती है कि चूँकि पावर सप्लाई बहुत ज़्यादा महदूद लेवल पे मुयसर होती है, जिसकी वजह से इस वक्त गिलगित शहर पूरा का पूरा बूंद बूंद को तरस रहा होता है। तो फरवरी और मार्च के महीने में पानी की तलब ज़्यादा होती है और सप्लाई बहुत कम होती है। गिलगित शहर के हद तक अभी भी पानी की सप्लाई के इशूज़ हैं। अभी बाज़ार एरिया में भी पानी नहीं है। जुटियाल में भी एहतिजाज हुआ। इस वक्त तमफरी के अंदर भी वाटर शॉर्टेज बहुत ज़्यादा है। ख़वातीन को वाटर सप्लाई के इशूज़ का सामना है।
Authorities in Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan were fully aware that the main water pump required a dedicated special power line to function efficiently. A formal request was submitted and assurances were made, yet no action followed. With electricity available for barely an hour, water distribution became impossible. This was not a mystery but a clear administrative failure, leaving residents of Gilgit to suffer due to official negligence and inaction.
वहाँ पे पहुँचा तो वाक़ईतन ख़वातीन धरने में मौजूद थी और उनका मुतालिबा भी जायज़ था कि पिछले 4-5 दिनों से वाटर सप्लाई ना होने के बराबर थी। उसकी वजह हमने जब पूछी तो बिजली के महकमे को भी बुलाया, पीछी के नुमाइंदों को भी बुलाया, इंतज़ामी मशीनरी को भी वहाँ पे मोबिलाइज़ किया, सबको वहाँ पे जमा किया तो पता ये चला कि वाटर एंड पावर को GDA ने रिक्वेस्ट भेजी है कि आप हमें स्पेशल लाइन दे दें। मरकज़ तबलीगी मरकज़ के नीचे जो पंप लगा हुआ है उसको स्पेशल लाइन की ज़रूरत थी और स्पेशल लाइन ना होने की वजह से चूँकि पावर सप्लाई बहुत कम है, 1 घंटे की पावर सप्लाई में तमाम लोगों को पानी की सप्लाई नामुमकिन था। वो फाइल लामाला मतलब प्रोसेस का हिस्सा थी तो उनको स्पेशल लाइन नहीं मिलने की वजह से पानी की सप्लाई की शॉर्टेज थी। ख़वातीन का मौक़िफ़ बिल्कुल दुरुस्त था।
The water crisis is only one reflection of deeper mismanagement across POGB. From crippled healthcare facilities, lacking doctors and basic medicines to fragile infrastructure and prolonged power outages, residents face hardship at every step. Employment opportunities remain scarce and essential services function far below acceptable standards. For many, daily life is a constant struggle against systemic neglect, where promises of reform fade quickly, but the burden on ordinary people continues to grow.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We'll be back next week with more news, views, and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@anin.com. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.